for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'd like to thank the High Representative, the Secretary General on Disarmament Affairs, Madam Izumi Nakamitsu, for presenting the Secretary General's report on small arms and light weapons. We are also grateful to Damien Spleeters for the useful information on the work of the Conflict Armament Research NGO. Russia has consistently favored increasing the role of the UN in coordinating the efforts of the international community to solve the problem of the illicit trade of SALWs. The illicit trade in these arms remains the main source of financing for terrorist and extremist groups. It is also a major factor in the proliferation and deterioration of local conflicts and armed violence. Despite some progress being made in a number of areas, there has not yet been a significant improvement in fighting the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons in the world. The pace of implementation of the UN Programme of Action to prevent, combat and eradicate the illicit trade in SALWs in all its aspects is still insufficient. There has also been slippage in implementing the international tracing instrument on SALWs. We consider that more effective implementation of the UN Programme of Action would help to introduce a universal ban on the transfer of all types of SALWs to entities not authorized by governments of recipient states. It would help states to enact strict regulations and direct control in areas under their jurisdiction of arms export brokering activities, and help to limit the number of brokers themselves as much as possible. It would also help to ban re-export of imported SALWs without the consent of the initial exporting state. Furthermore, the manufacture of SALWs using expired licenses or without licenses from countries owning the manufacturing technology should be banned. Finally, significantly decreasing the risk of uncontrolled proliferation of SALWs would also help to strengthen national control over all stages of the life cycle of weapons, from their manufacture to their use. Such measures could be based on states' relevant good practice, including that of Russia, which has developed legislation in this area. We are prepared to provide advice to states interested in studying Russian best practice in small arms and light weapons control. Our country, as part of our annual reporting, always presents its report on the implementation of the Programme of Action. This is a separate structured document that gives a complete picture on the effective implementation of the Programme of Action at the national level. Nonetheless, we must point out that the Secretary General's report contains a number of controversial points. In particular, we would like to draw attention to the mention in the report of the idea of the expansion of the remit of the UN Register of Conventional Arms by introducing an 8th category of SALWs. There's a need to take into consideration that the existing 7 categories already include all the main types of conventional arms, the delivery of which, in certain circumstances, can be destabilizing in nature. Furthermore, when taking decisions on the 8th category, one needs to bear in mind the bad precedent of the use of the register for unintended purposes, namely to define the scope of the arms embargoes. That has been the case with the DPRK and Iran. Unintended loss of this in practice is that there's a limit to the possibilities of states under sanctions, not only for its Article 51 of the Charter right to self-defense, but also simply to uphold law enforcement rights. Furthermore, we deem it questionable for the report to refer to the Arms Trade Treaty. This treaty is far from universal in nature. It still does not fully allow for the implementation of its own provisions. For example, the ATT does not include a direct ban on unlicensed arms manufacture or the transfer of weapons to non-state actors. It also does not include provisions that would regulate the protocol for the re-export of arms. There are serious questions about the application of the treaty in practice. Some of its parties continue directly or indirectly to supply weapons to domestic armed conflict areas. Mr. President, in conclusion, I would like to point out that the Russian Federation agrees with the concerns of the international community, or shares these concerns regarding the uncontrolled proliferation of SALWs. The Russian Federation is in favor of further consolidating international efforts to counter them under the auspices of the UN. We agree that these matters require a comprehensive approach. We intend to continue to work closely with all interested parties on these issues during this year's upcoming biennial review conference for states on the Programme of Action. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the representative of the Russian Federation